Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the February 12th Jupyter Frontends and Accessibility call. This meeting is being recorded, so be good. No, follow the Jupyter Code of Conduct, please. And let's see, we have 14 people on the call. On the agenda, we only have 4 people, so please add stuff to the agenda if you wish. And why don't we start with Rosio? Is Rosio on the call?
Yeah. Sorry. I just had a quick announcement for the community call next week. I'm not. I think there was an email about the change of date. I think the blog post went out before we got any responses from the front end team, but yeah, I hope that's okay. It's scheduled for next week during this time slot, and I linked the agenda for any signups. We have a few, but it would be nice to get some more from the community. But yeah, I think that was it for me.
Thanks. Yeah, I think there was some confusion there, but if anyone is here now because they thought it was a community call, this is a sort of community, so why not stick around? And we'll do it next week, same place. Cool. Thank you. Let's see. Mike is next up on the agenda.
Yeah, let's start with big topic, JupyterLab 4.4 beta. It seems that the vote about the service manager pull request has run its course and passed. So we should be able to merge it. Right now we have CI failures that need to be resolved, but pending a final review, final look at it, it seems that there is nothing blocking it. And there is also another feature PR adding a toggle for workspaces in the top bar, but it is opt-in. And other than that, it seems that we could release the beta 0 tomorrow and do a phased or soft launch where we write the release notes and release beta 1 and announce beta 1 later next week. Does it sound like a reasonable strategy? I know that there is 2 issues which are tagged as release blocker, and one of them is writing user-facing changelog. The other is removing some of the code mirror shortcuts which got added when we upgraded code mirror, and I'm happy to take care of that. I'm not sure if there is anyone volunteering to help with writing the user-facing changelog, but yeah, otherwise I think we are ready to go. Are there any other opinions or any pull requests that need to be included, which I am not aware of?
For the CI failure on the service manager PR, I'm not sure we can actually fix it. And
no,
I think it's the...
Sorry, I am referring to the failing snapshots because of the JupyterLab demo.
Yeah, right.
Changes, yeah. Not, yeah. I know that we just need to merge that and release, and it will fix itself.
Yeah, it's annoying, but maybe we should try to fix that at some point because, yeah, it's related to one of the tests that trying to splice sources on the staging assets, I think, yeah. But otherwise, I guess making a beta sounds good, and maybe it doesn't mean that we have a feature freeze, or do we want to ensure that there is a feature freeze? Like maybe we want to give maybe 1 more week if people want to open a PR that may be tagged as an enhancement, and then that will go in a beta 1, for example. I don't know if we need to be strict about this right now.
I think no new features is a good call for beta 0, and let's not add enhancements after beta 1 is like a good differentiator between what we should do and shouldn't do, because if with beta 1 we are publishing the changelog for users, we wouldn't want someone to start testing and then there is a new thing happening after they already tested the beta. Okay, so I will be coordinating on Zulip as we do and did for past couple of releases after moving from Gitter. So there will be heads up before I attempt releasing, and I will be checking again if there is anything which needs to be included. Otherwise, thank you for the time thinking about this and discussing it. I have 2 more points. One is about security training. So Jupyter Security Group applied for a program which is organized by GitHub. It's called GitHub Secure Open Source Fund, and it includes training for free volunteers. We are looking for at least 1 person, maybe 2. I know that David, who's on the call, volunteered. I also said that I'm happy to take part, and I personally don't have to be there. I volunteered because we needed someone to be there in order for us to apply, and the required time commitment to participate in the training is 2 hours twice a week for 3 weeks. There is some funding attached, and the details of how this funding would flow are not decided. I understand that the security group is or will be coordinating with the EC, or because Rick, who was actually applying on behalf of Jupyter, is also in the EC now. He will be switching hats and making sure that this is figured out. But the technicality is that GitHub is also kind of doing that via GitHub sponsors. And from what they told us, it can be either directed to the organization account, which is linked to sponsors, individual accounts. I do not have an answer on how it will look like, but would highly encourage anyone who's a maintainer or developer contributor and want to learn more about security from a proper organization with good background, and also learn a little bit about compliance with some of the security regulations and how to manage vulnerabilities in practice in open source to apply. Darren, you had your hand up. Did I already answer your question?
I was going to say, what's the time commitment look like for people who are wondering, but you said it right after. And David, you look like you are about to say something.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna add that like I signed up with Mike. So yeah, there is 1 open spot. It's 4 hours a week, 3 weeks. So 12 hours total over 3 weeks.
With an expectation of a minimum 80% attendance, plus there will be some things to do outside of the training meetings, and there will be a kind of a support structure to follow up. Like the GitHub team will be able to advise us after the program has ended or the training itself has ended. Though unfortunately, like the details, all the details are on the website, and we are not like it's not very concrete because it's the first run of the program. We don't know how it will look in practice. Probably next year, if it repeats, there would be much more info.
Andrew.
I wanted to ask a clarifying question, and you just mentioned that like if you don't have an answer to it, that's fair. You might not have the full knowledge of the program. Would you say it would be helpful to any contributor? So to like the general Jupyter Frontends context, or is it more specific to AI stuff, for example?
While
it should be. Yeah,
they
the
mentioned
AI
some
training is
AI.
only a small component. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think what David said was the AI is training is a small component of the thing. My guess is that this looks like, look, if you contribute a pull request to open source software, maybe this will be interesting for you, because open source software has many security ingress points, right? And so if you're working on the front end of JupyterLab, there's a lot of ways, a lot of things you could be looking out for. And if you're working on any part of the stack, that's true. So I have to imagine that if they're targeting a project like this and they are doing a 12-hour training, AI is only going to be a small part of that. I think there's a lot more sort of just looking at code you admit into your project and, you know, dependency management and stuff like that, that will also feature. Any volunteers for that third slot? And, you know, if you're thinking about doing this, and it would help, it's probably the case that, for example, there could be a public issue you can point to for your employer to see, oh, I've been nominated as one of the Jupyter Frontends people who's going to go like train for security on this thing or whatever. There could be something like that that helps you justify it internally.
I think Rosio, you were interested in doing it as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I just added a comment there. I would be happy to join if you would have me. There's space allotted.
Sweet.
I would support Rosio's candidature. I just sent a message into the chat that it would be nice for someone from Triaging group to participate. Like I could potentially volunteer, but David is from my employer team, so maybe we could, you know, share some info through that. So yeah, Rosio would be a good candidate in my opinion as well.
Cool. Okay. If it turns out that someone cannot do it or something, those two, sorry, the one issue that you linked that's a Jupyter issue, Mike, is that where somebody would say, hey, also put me on the wait list or something like this? Or do we have a place where somebody?
Yeah,
Cool.
that's the place where we decided to coordinate. I tried to edit my original issue, which was very sparse on details, and at least the time commitment list listed there. I think we can continue editing that issue. And I saw Rosie already left a comment. Thank you. I will also go to the Jupyter Hub team, and so that it's not only frontends who are represented. And if there's more volunteers than there is spots, it's okay, because like I do not have to participate. I'm happy to participate, but yeah, my candidature was in part to make sure that we can participate in the program in general. Other than that, I think the issue is a good place to keep track of that.
I think there's one other thing just to mention, like it's actually not required that 3 people join. I think like the original email, it says up to 3. So presumably there's a minimum of 1. So
Exactly.
like no pressure if like you don't want to join, I guess. Like I just think it would be wise to take advantage of this, given that, well, it's free, which is the best price.
And I think of the conversation with a person from GitHub, they acknowledge that Jupyter is a very big project, and like the number of frees might seem small, but they also didn't say that it will be limited. The support afterwards or joining the office hours will not be strictly limited to these 3 people, but of course they only have 3 spaces for the training itself. And yeah. So moving on, I wanted to call out one pull request, which is improving performance of rendering of standard output and error. You might have seen me mention pull requests like that for past month, where some of them had enormous performance gains and other a bit smaller. This one is basically removing the need to run regular expression as a blocking part for rendering of the standard error and outputs. And the challenging part with it is that it is pretty complex, the code itself and the management of rendering. So while I originally wanted to have that in 4.4, if we were to release a beta soon, I'm not quite sure if we want to do that. Because I can imagine there being potential conflicts if there are extensions which extend the render text or render error functions, which are public. And although the end result would still be the same for the user, even a user of these functions, there is some unpredictability introduced by us shifting the rendering to happen completely asynchronously. So yeah, I just wondered if anyone has potential extensions that they know which could conflict with it. I'd be interested to test these extensions, and if you have like a general opinions on whether, like, do you think this is something that could be merged? Of course, this is still in draft, but like this approach of delaying rendering and managing actively which output is rendered at a time, does it sound like a good strategy, or do you think we should explore other avenues? That's basically the kind of feedback that I'm seeking on this pull request right now.
Was the debouncer implementation and luminal polling inappropriate for this? Because this seems like a bit more custom what you're doing here. Is it? Yeah, okay.
So the bouncing itself would not change when during the rendering modification to the DOM structure happen. It would just make that there is fewer of them. Now, this pull request does that by using request animation frame, which allows us to only compute the changes within specific time when all the other elements of the DOM were done. And if we apply them smartly, we are not triggering another layout. And that smartly means before the next frame, which is very expensive in JupyterLab because there is just so many nodes flying around. And when you are streaming thousands of lines, you are creating and replacing thousands of nodes.
Right.
So I guess this is partially a balancing act of, are we writing just a web app or are we writing a game engine? Because some of that is kind of resembling techniques used in game rendering, and I just want
to I mean,
have a sanity check on is that really worth it, and what are the, I don't know, maybe there are alternatives to explore. Because one alternative to explore would be delegating some of the work to a web worker. It would still not free us from the cost of layout, but yeah, potential avenue to look at.
I mean, this is really similar to the data grid, which basically is also a game engine of the most boring game there is, spreadsheets. So yeah. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. All right, well, thanks, Mike. I want to take a look at this just because, you know, these sorts of performance enhancements are really super interesting and also hairy. So I found it really interesting. Thank you.
And just to be sure, you said that you would like to have it in the 4.4, or maybe it's not like that urgent, or it.
I'm not sure if we are going to release beta soon. I think it might make sense to postpone it to allow more testing. But maybe if I spend a couple more days testing it, and if that's not a new feature, maybe 4.4 beta 1 could be a good target. But
Yeah.
if we don't feel confident at this time, I think I would prefer to err on side of caution and postpone that to 4.5 and maybe backport to 4.4 after a long time of testing in alpha. We are happy to backport it because it doesn't have like public API changes itself. It just changes the behavior of the renderer.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mike. Jeremy, you are up next.
Yeah, a couple of points. So I spent some time trying to catch up on the TypeScript releases that we were a little bit behind, and I think the one updating to 5.5 just got merged recently. Thanks, Mike, for the reviews. It shouldn't change that much, but the next one that I decided to look into may require some changes, so it's not ready yet. My hope was to update to 5.7 before 4.4, but I'm not sure yet. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, so another point I had was about like these meetings and the room that we are currently using. So it's the same room for all of the Jupyter cores, but because we have like, I think we are the only meeting recording using the recording. And currently it's quite annoying to get the recordings because we need to open a ticket. So there is another option if we want to go down that path is to have a dedicated Zoom room just for the front-end call. And we enable recording by default. So it will work a little bit differently. It's like when you join the call, it would be recording already. Someone will have to stop, and then someone will have to start again. But then we will be able to, fetch the recording a little bit easier. I'm not sure it's worth it because we also need to change the links because that won't be the same. But yeah, in case some people had opinions on that, wanted to share. But it's probably not that urgent also, like right now, it's just maybe something to test a little bit before we take any action on that.
I mean, can we, I mean, honestly, what I think about is just having one of us maintain some kind of automation that just pulls the host key and puts it in a privileged place.
Yeah, maybe that works. But the hope was that the LFX system will handle that automatically at some point.
That would be nice.
It would, yeah. But maybe it's just a matter of opening tickets. I would try to open another ticket to ask for like a better, workflow for getting the recordings. And yeah, but it was just another solution in case we were like annoyed by the way it works right now.
What we should do. It's just so
William, it looks like you are.
Oops, sorry.
That's it. Yeah, no problem. And then I had two other items, and a little bit more related to Jupyter AI. The first one is about this issue that is open in the Jupyter AI repo about having a secret manager. And I was wondering if people had an opinion on that, and whether we should start looking into having such extensions available somewhere, and whether it should be as part of the JupyterLab core repo as a proper extension, or as part of the Jupyter AI mono repo. The secrets manager would be useful not only for Jupyter AI, but for all other extensions as well that need to put API keys or secrets without having to go through the settings, for example, like on JupyterLab GitHub. So yeah, so if you want to discuss that, happy to do it now or in the issue. And another item related to Jupyter AI is something that I think was also discussed briefly a few weeks ago, is whether we should start having a dedicated call about Jupyter AI itself, because the main motivation for this is there is a lot of development ongoing on Jupyter AI and other projects. We've seen other projects also doing some AI stuff in the notebook, but not using Jupyter AI. And maybe it could be useful to have a dedicated call where people can meet and try to build on the same blocks and try to consolidate the efforts in one place, or also have some vision on like what the next features would be for Jupyter AI in general or related projects. So there is a topic on Zurib where we can discuss this, or we can also discuss now. And I think that's all my points. Yeah.
In the Zula topic, the time 8 a.m. Pacific Wednesdays was floated. At 8 a.m. the docs working group meets, but between 8:30 and 9, there's no meeting, and it leads into this one, which a lot of the people on that call might be interested in anyway.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a thing to do. It'll only be half an hour, so maybe that's not enough, but it's a half hour that's like almost cost-free because it's in between meetings that a lot of those people might already have an interest in.
That makes sense. I thought the docs working group meeting lasted a full hour. At least that's what I saw last time I checked the
It's
calendar.
a half hour.
Cool.
Half hour. Okay, thanks for clarifying. I didn't know that. Yeah, 8:30 works better. Yeah.
So do you want to
update the
try
Zoom
like
topic.
inaugural one next week, that'll be leading not into this call, it'll be leading into the community call, but that slot's still open if you want to try it for next week.
Yeah. I'm not really familiar with the process of adding a new series to the Jupyter community calendar, but
I think it's just a regular Google Calendar, and I think different, like lots of random people have permission to, but it's also sitting in the one password. I don't mind adding it after this call myself, except that I don't know how to generate those Zoom links. So if someone who does know how to do that agrees to do it, that would be much better. But if not, I'll ask someone to help me.
You mean for the Zoom link?
Yeah.
It's
wait,
just
should we use
the same
Zoom for this call? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah, then I'll do it. I'll add it to the Jupyter calendar, and I'll do it after this call. Cool.
Can we create a separate Zoom room? Is that possible? I'm just thinking like if the call overflows, then like we have a hard stop at the 30-minute mark, right?
Well,
yeah, you can break out room at the end of it for sure.
Okay.
We did that like a few weeks ago, so we wanted to continue talking about a specific topic, and we could use the breakout rooms while other people were having the next call. So we could do that.
And there's like a link for that. Where can I find that link to the breakout room?
You do it right
That's-
within the Zoom UI, I think, don't you?
So I think when you have host, there's an option under more for breakout rooms. So you can create breakout rooms there. And then you can switch to a breakout room. And then if you want to go back to the main room, you can sort of use the leave button. So it will give you an option, leave meeting or go to back to main meeting from breakout room.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll be able to pass you the host key if you would like that too.
Okay, yeah. I'm not sure what is the best way to communicate with each other, especially to share. Like, I'm assuming the host key is like a security credential. Like,
It just allows you to start recordings and stuff. So in any case, I'll be in the meeting room, so you can just hop in the meeting room,
okay.
and I'll be there, and I can help you out with it.
Sounds good. Thank you. And just to summarize, Darian, you were going to create the invite.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank you.
This is exciting. It's good to do this. This is like one of the, steps along the progression. Because if you guys all remember, the Jupyter AI effort is part of the Jupyter Frontends sub-project as incubation, but the intention is for it to become its own sub-project. This is a good step along the way. Cool. So the secret manager extension. I assume it's a hard requirement of Jupyter AI, but it'll be useful for lots of other extensions as well. It seems like the lowest hanging fruit, because Jupyter AI is still part of Frontends, is to use the JupyterLab GitHub org, make a standalone extension there. And then if Jupyter AI becomes its own sub-project, we can have the conversation of who takes this repo with them. But for now, leaving it ambiguous, just putting it in that org seems like it solves the problem. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I think I'll be in favor of this. I think maybe the main argument against creating a new repo and a new extension separately from everything is added maintenance, but we already have other extensions that we maintain within the JupyterLab org. So,
well, I think maybe then what it could be is it's a standalone repo, but the aspiration is either we decide that we were wrong, even though lots of API keys might be useful, that really people only like the major use case is AI, or we decide this should be in JupyterLab core, and we stop having it in a standalone repo and we upstream it to JupyterLab core one day. I don't know. That seems like a reasonable eventual outcome. To me, this seems like the kind of core feature JupyterLab probably ought to offer one day.
Yeah, I think there are already examples out there that shows that it's not only for AI features. So there are already points like to have it like somewhere else than in Jupyter AI.
So I also think this
Does
would
it
be
make-
really useful. I guess, have we considered working that credential store extension that already exists and putting it like in the Jupyter incubator program? I feel like Jupyter extensions are riddled. Our whole ecosystem's littered with abandoned Jupyter extensions. So not creating another one if one already exists might be a good way to start.
I think the one which already exists hasn't been updated in 5
5
years or
yeah.
so it is basically a rewrite from zero and verifying copyright on something which has been dormant for this time might be just too much of an issue rather than starting from scratch. And now we actually have requirements which are potentially different compared to what that extension did, because differently, rather than having a separate package, we might just want to populate environment variables in the kernel directly which is something that wasn't really possible before. And I know that Matthias, who's working and maintaining IPython project, enabled that, and now we can know the name of the notebook from an environment variable passed through the Jupyter server down to IPyKernel. So even some of the architecture which could be used for a new version of this extension wasn't there back then when it was originally written.
Would it make sense to have the secrets manager be a Jupyter server extension? I'm thinking about the credential store in the sense that like it needs to also have an easy way to be accessible from the front end. Like ideally, there would just be a server handler that's available to access a secret of a given name.
So what I think is it potentially doesn't want to expose the secrets. Like the way Jupyter AI works, by default, it allows you to check whether the key is defined and to set it, but the keys are only available on the backend. Is it correct?
Right. Sorry, what I meant was like there needs to be a way from the front end to update the key. Yeah, like reading the key. Yeah, you're right. That is definitely, and we don't do that in Jupyter AI, by the way. The API key doesn't reach the front end. But there's still, I do think there does need to be like an API component where I can update the value of a secret from the front end. I think that would be important to have. Otherwise, it'd be difficult to build full stack applications with this.
That's what I was. That's what I was thinking too. And having it in Jupyter Server, I would say why not? But there are also other use cases where like people may not want to use the default Jupyter Server extension for managing secrets. They may want to use a remote endpoint somewhere because they have integrated a JupyterLab in whatever their product or something. There is also the use case of having that only client side. Like if you have a JupyterLite somewhere, you want to have like a place where you can edit secrets, and the secrets maybe are stored only in the session of your page, and you reload and they are gone, and then you can go to that panel and set them again. It's fine for like if you want to do like a quick sessions and just demos or tutorials. So there are other use cases than just the classic, Jupyter server and the JupyterLab frontend.
So I think we are converging on the need to have a package with a front-end extension which can be disabled, a server extension which offers an API that the front-end would communicate with, but that can be also swapped for another package to provide a different implementation, exposing them on the same routes on the API. And then Jupyter AI could talk with this REST API and disable the front-end for managing the API keys, or it could allow to have both of them at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, the extension can be designed in various levels of flexibility, but the minimum version of flexibility we'd want is probably the extension ships two plugins. One is a plugin that renders a UI for managing secrets, and one is just a connector that answers via some promise-backed API to give you that stuff. And the default implementation will be that same extension ships with those two front-end plugins and a server extension for REST endpoints. But if you're using JupyterLite, you disable that connector one and you write your own, and you don't care about the server one. So the Python package ends up being the server extension David's talking about, but it's not shipping with Jupyter Server. It's shipping specifically with this extension. And then later, we could decide that that connector is even more interesting. It gives you a drop down of different places you can get stuff from. Like we can make that choice too. There's nothing stopping that from happening.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking like the secrets manager would scope the secrets to an extension. And this like basically you could say add this secret under the Jupyter AI scope. So in Jupyter AI settings UI, we could have our own UI for editing API keys for Jupyter AI. And other extensions can also scope their own secrets, such that they can retrieve like just the secrets that they care about and not like all of and they don't have to interact with every secret that's available.
Well, it could be the way the settings manager works. The settings manager is the default lowest common denominator manager for changing any settings you want. But lots of settings can be modified via different UIs. Some settings can be modified via a menu item where you just like uncheck an item. Some setting items are you clicked on a button somewhere and it got saved in setting. But all of them are also, in addition to that, accessible via the settings editor UI, which is just general purpose. So we might have a general all secrets manager, and then Jupyter AI builds like a nice specific targeted UI for the specific things that it wants to do, in addition to the lowest common denominator secret manager.
Yeah, that would be great, as long as we still allow for like the idea of like sort of scoping the secrets when they're created. Yeah, I'm totally cool with having a general UI in JupyterLab to manage everything. I think one of the issues that I ran into while building like secret support in Jupyter AI was basically I'm not sure about what the best technology is to use for persisting secrets. I want to know, like, does anybody here have any recommendations or thoughts on that?
I've spent too much time fighting how to deploy, say, Jupyter AI on a Jupyter Hub derivative and hiding the keys from the user. And I know how to do that, but it's very difficult because of the way how Jupyter Server basically gives you access to everything. And in Jupyter Hub, you are an admin of an instance. So I don't know if we really have a good solution for general case of hiding secrets. I think we have a good solution for not exposing them needlessly in the browser. Sorry, that doesn't answer your question directly.
It's all right. I just wanted to confirm. Yeah. Darren?
Yeah, we probably set this topic aside. We have a plan for what's next, but we could talk about its design for a long time. Maybe we should move on to the rest of the agenda while we have a few minutes left. So how about Dan next, please?
I just want to provide a quick update on, I guess Rosio and I have been continuing to make updates to Notebook Classic. So and I'll share my screen real quick. We updated so that we're now using like the Hatch backend. So Hatch is building Notebook Classic, like the regular notebook. Rosio did notice there was like a speed decrease where builds of a wheel was taking 60 seconds on like a modern MacBook. So we've been working on fixing that and actually just changing the way we're like globbing stuff in the PyProject.toml significantly increase the performance. So there's an open PR for that. And we'll probably merge that soon. So I just want to provide like a quick update that, the build for Notebook Classic is now using the Hatch backend instead of all the setup.py stuff. And I think we shared that before. Any feedback or input on that?
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, cool. And Andrew, you are up.
Hey folks, I also wanted to quickly share an update. So for Jupyter collaboration, so 3D text branch is now updated. Also could be said that it is fixed. So if you've been waiting to backport some PRs to Jupyter collaboration branch 3D text, you can do that now. And if you're interested in the details of how that was done, the old 3D text branch, which was not updated, was renamed into 3D text broken. and then new branch was created from main up to a 3.1.0 commit. So yeah, this will unblock me to backport the JupyterLab pin. But I know that this was blocking other pairs, so I wanted to mention that as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you, Andrew. All right, so before we finish the call, why don't we stop the recording in case anybody wants to say something not on the recording? Is there anything anyone wants to say on the recording first, though? Okay, cool. Jeremy, could you please stop it? Brace yourselves.